Working Women's Day. Welcome to one of many activities that are happening today and throughout the month.
Morning everybody, my name is Chris Hilo. I'm from Gabriela, USA, Filipinas for Rights and Empowerment. Let's get excited because we are here today for International Women's Day.
It says here the International Women's Alliance calls on women all over the globe to advance their ongoing struggles against imperialist globalization and the crisis of capitalism by mobilizing with militant actions on March 8th to commemorate International Working Women's Day. The International Conference of Working Women over 100 years ago gave birth to what is now popularly known as International Women's Day. The origin of this day was to highlight the resistance and organizing power of working women to gain the right to fair wages and working hours, the right to vote, and end to discrimination. The March 8th IWD calls on women who are active in the struggles locally, nationally, and globally to build solidarity and organize militant actions for IWD. And during March 8th actions, we invite women's organizations to wear purple armbands, as we're doing today, to show solidarity across actions globally. And some of the demands are end imperialist wars of aggression and intervention, including in occupied Palestine, Afghanistan, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Africa, Latin America, Asia, and elsewhere. Genuine land agrarian reform now. Jobs paying union wages or livable income. Healthcare, housing, education, food now. No to racist immigration policies, police brutality, and mass incarceration. End deportations. End forced migration and human trafficking. Stop modern day slavery and violence against women. Free all political prisoners in developing and developed countries. We call on the freedom for Lynn Stewart, Cece McDonald, a black trans woman, women in the Move 9 who've been in prison for over 30 years, Dr. Afia Siddiqui, a victim of the so-called U.S. War on Terror, and many, many more. And end political repression and human rights violations right now. This is part of the statement of IWA, and we're very proud to be a part of this very important global alliance.
And the daughter of the slaves, the workers, the woman, and the mother. I have been the daughter of chains, and I shall break the cycle today.
I'm from a very strong culture when men war is the law. And I've been breaking all those laws before I came to the United States. I break the law with my parents. I told them before, say that I cannot continue my high school because I was supposed to know how to cook, and soon I will get married and go back into the kitchen. And I just think, I say, oh. And then
for conditions and maltreatment these women had to endure to survive, there was no minimum wage or maximum hour laws. Naturally, those who are oppressed are faced with the challenge and necessity to rise up against their oppressor, and that's what these women did. They organized and went on strike in 1909, leaving the only place that separated them from survival and starvation. The strikers were faced with physical abuse and constant arrests. Yet despite this and public indifference, they continue to strike and fight back with the hard line, "We want a union."
Yetta Myers, 19. Bettina Miale, 18. Francis Miale, 21.
Presente!
Presente!
And to this day, we know that the 1% still value their profits over our lives. Didn't Nike do this again in the 90s to women in Indonesia at a shoe factory? And Walmart warehouses? To this day, maybe in some places, are still doing this to the overnight shift, the midnight shift workers. They're locked in for the night. We women we know in our bones that workers' rights, health and safety rights are always women's rights too.
The reason why I'm here is because trans women have the right to work too. You know, I go to school and I get degrees, it's like everyone else, and I should be looked at. Not the content of my character, not the gender that I am.
Hoy, en el Día Internacional de la Mujer, saludamos al pueblo venezolano. Today, International Women's Workers' Day, we greet the Venezuelan people.
Y saludamos al comandante Chávez porque él no ha muerto, él está vivo. Él en una reunión hace unos años atrás, estaban todas las mujeres reunidas hablando sobre el problema y la situación de la mujer.
A few years ago, in a meeting, he was there with Venezuelan women talking about women's issues.
Y dijo a todos los machistas, a todos los que tienen un poquito de machismo,
And he said to all machistas, and even if you have just a little bit of machismo,
esta revolución es feminista
this revolution is a feminist revolution
por la igualdad de los derechos de la mujer y que la mujer sea respetada.
It is for women's equality and for respect for women.
Porque sin la participación de la mujer no hay revolución ni cambios en la sociedad.
Because without women's participation, there is no revolution or change in society.
Kabalikat is here, first of all, in honor of the brave women of the Triangle Shirtwaist factory. And we are here as well to celebrate with everybody International Working Women's Day, for we are migrant women workers.
Housing and tenants' rights are a woman's issue. Single women, single mothers, grandmothers, aunts, raising grandchildren, nephews and nieces are all tenants. Tenants affected by the onslaught from the Rent Stabilization Association. Most definitely a misnomer because they are a landlord's lobby. From the, under attack from the real estate and the developers camp. They get sold out elected officials to vote down laws that have been created to protect tenants. They get also upstate Albany to change the laws to facilitate the greed of the landlords. Under the capitalist system that we live, development means displacement of long-term tenants in our communities, working class tenants. They have stabilized our communities, and that is why now the rich want our communities. The Postal Service is the only constitutional service, and they're taking that too.
In today's world of modern and sophisticated healthcare, the medical industrial complex its only interest is in profits, not healthcare needs of humanity globally.
Also, in terms of healthcare, we cannot forget the issue of reproductive justice.
Thank you.
We have to remember that is part of health. The healthcare is a right. Reproductive justice for all women of all ages to be able to control our bodies without the state interfering in our lives. So this is a very, very important issue that our coalition adheres to and defends.
School busing is a women's issue. Safe and equal access to school should be a right and a public service, but it's now done for profit. The mayor and his puppets went out of their way to shortchange school bus workers and riders by soliciting low bids to benefit the companies, not the classroom. This provoked a strike, as you know. The Wall Streeters injured and then insulted our children, especially students with disabilities, by depriving them of school and then insulting them by bragging that the city saved money in those 4 weeks, that they didn't transport the children. Parents, most often mothers, learned, if they didn't already know, that the system does not care about our children unless we organize and fight.
We're also celebrating the life of Harriet Tubman at her 100th anniversary of her death. And she was one woman that at her time showed up, was present, and was committed to the struggles of her time. This incredible woman warrior was a freedom fighter. She led slaves to freedom, abolitionist. She struggled for justice, spied in Civil War, and a strategist. She actually did the strategy on how to fight.
In New Orleans, hundreds of Filipino oil company workers were trafficked and employed by the Grand Isle Shipyard Corporation, or GIS. 3 of those workers died in an oil platform explosion last year, a platform cited for serious OSHA violations, all due to capitalist greed, just like the Triangle Shirtwaist tragedy.
Rosie Crepo, 19. Grancy Dinent, 20. Yetta de Tenth Schultz, 18. Clara Dockman, 19.
Presente.
Tenants cannot get back in because there's no way that they can afford the rent. Some of them were still paying $400, $600 a month. And to go back in with smaller apartments after the renovation, and then you're paying $1,200 to $2,000 a month depending. And you're not having the same amount of room that you would need for your family. So this also forces the residents to move out.
I can give you an example of what women can do when they decide to do it. We were able to stop the practices in Vieques.
Yes.
We changed the chain and the lock of the gate of the base, and women were the ones that were guarding that keys. We only let the men that were working there as civilian guards in and out of the base. Whenever a truck or a jeep from the military came to enter, we said no, and we never let them in. And then we decided to stop the practices as placing ourselves as human shields, and we were able to stop for 1 year, 1 whole year, the practices in Vieques.
When we march to stop violence against women, we're not just marching against individual men, or the brutes or pigs, as disgusting as they are. We are marching against the system that promotes the objectification of women, the view of women as the sexual property of men, that encourages and tolerates anti-women violence on a daily basis. We're marching against a police system that stops and frisks women, against the military, where rape culture is the dominant culture, and we're marching with the clear view that those are not the only forms of violence. Hunger, homelessness, unemployment, deportation, incarceration, these are all forms of violence against women and all of society.
Disappointed at the school system that pushed me through without learning about the lives of revolutionary women such as Angela Davis, Emma Goldman, and many others, and only minimal amount about Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. I'm disappointed that this is happening nationwide on many school campuses. But more importantly, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic when I look out into this crowd of beautiful, strong, revolutionary women. Optimistic at the opportunities that we all have to teach young women what it means to be strong, what it means to not be afraid to stand up and fight for what they believe in. It is our duty, our responsibility, to raise our children, to raise their fists, to have a dialogue with one another, and to bring an end to patriarchy, and to love themselves and love each other. One of my favorite signs that I've seen from Occupy Wall Street was one a friend of mine had. It said, "A woman's place is in the revolution."
Lynn Stewart, in case some of you don't know her. Okay, Lynn is a political prisoner. She's been in prison for several years now as a terrorist. Okay, she's a lawyer, she's an attorney. She was representing her client, who is the blind sheikh from Egypt. And so because she was representing him well, okay, the U.S. government decided to charge her with terrorism. So she's been in prison for several years now. We refer to her lovingly as the people's lawyer.
Again, it is not enough to stand against women's oppression, but because capitalism is a patriarchal institution, it is necessary to unite the women's struggle with the struggle of the proletariat. A great revolutionary once said, "Women hold up half the sky." So we must know how women have been at the forefront of revolutionary struggle. That said, long live proletarian feminism. Long live proletarian feminism, everybody.
Proletarian feminism.
Women workers are under attack. What do we do?
This is the International Working Women's Day Coalition, and we are here today to stand up for women's rights. We are here along with women organizing to resist and defend. We are all here, women of color, LGBT. women workers that are here today to commemorate March 25th, 1911 victims of the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire Factory. And we are also here today to commemorate International Working Women's Day.